Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. We talk about the problems people face in their day to day lives. Let's start with the video. I'm a 32-year-old female and my husband is 34. We got married when we were both 26 and 28. That was 6 years ago. We were so in love when we got married, but as we lived together, it seemed like the love began to fizzle out. We both got used to each other. Now I understand why some say it's not the love and butterflies you feel while dating that keeps a lasting marriage. I knew I loved him too much to not work on our marriage, but he seemed uninterested most of the time. We had terrible communication issues once, so I thought we needed to see a therapist, but he refused. In his words, all I needed to do was understand him. I told him it was a two-way thing and we had to try together. We had a big argument and he said he would come. On the day, we were each supposed to drive there after work, but he never came. When I got home, he wasn't there either and returned home drunk. I was so pissed and hurt that I didn't even have the energy for another argument. I slept in the guest room that night and cried myself to sleep. He never brought up his no-show or gave an apology for it. I wonder every day what happened to us, where we got it wrong and how we could fix it. God knows I wanted so bad to fix us, to fix our marriage. About 4 months ago, his attitude towards me became even worse, and he told me he had lost his job. So I thought he was just acting out. I took all the insults and hurtful things he said to me. After all, they say hurting people hurt people. I started providing for all our needs in the house. We used to split the costs before, but I was more than capable of footing the bills on my own until he got back on his feet. He still went out like usual when he had a job, only this time he stayed even later and sometimes didn't come home for days. I was growing tired of it, so I decided to confront him the next time it happened. He didn't come home for the weekend or respond to my calls. I started to get really worried and checked the news and the internet to see if there were any accidents. Just thinking about it gives me the chills. I was so terrified. I must have called him more than 50 times throughout that weekend. I left him several texts too, and on Sunday evening I received a reply, "Be back tomorrow." That was all I got after I couldn't reach him for days. My marriage with him was unbearable, and I think he enjoyed watching me get frustrated. Where was the man who worshipped the ground I walked on and did everything I wanted? Where was the man who showered me with gifts and wrote original poems? Where was the man who understood me sometimes even more than I understood myself? Where was my husband? I was becoming a shadow of myself, and everyone around me noticed something was up. I was finding it difficult to open up to anyone about what had been happening in my marriage. It felt like if I said it out loud, then it would be irreversible. But I guess nothing could have stopped the demise of my marriage. I got used to my husband not being home during the weekends, so it didn't bother me as it did the first time. One Friday night, I got a text from him to meet him at a club. The text read, "Hey baby, I'm out with the guys. You want to come to the club? I'm there now." I was excited because I thought it was the light at the end of the tunnel. It had been a while since I went out like that, since getting married, so I searched for the sexiest outfit I had. I planned to get my husband back that night. When I arrived, he didn't even notice all the effort I put into dressing up for him. He was just interested in me paying for the drinks. I noticed that his best friend wasn't there, but all his other friends were. which was really strange because they always went out together. Most of them were drunk, including my husband, and it seemed they were celebrating something. I got curious, but no one would speak to me about what was happening. For some reason, I knew I needed to find out what it was. It didn't sit right with me. It wasn't the first time my husband made me come somewhere just so I could foot the bills. Still, I went every time because I thought it was an opportunity for him to really see me and realize how much he missed me. I called his best friend, who also happens to be my friend. Immediately I heard his voice. I knew that my instincts were right. Something was definitely going on. It didn't take much to get it out of him. It was my husband's bachelor party, and he was getting married the next day. Leo wasn't at the party because he thought my husband was making a mistake. He told me he had tried to dissuade him from getting married, or at least for him to tell me the truth, but he didn't listen. Leo also told me that my husband didn't lose his job. Instead, he got promoted but had been using all his money to plan an elaborate wedding. That stung. I felt like a fool for still wanting us to work. A fool for still doing everything he wanted, hoping he would love me again. All he did was use me. We are Muslims, so polygamy is allowed, but that still hurts. Both our immediate families were monogamous, so I wondered where he got that idea from. We had always agreed that we preferred monogamy. I went back into the club and confronted my husband. I could see the guilt in his eyes as I came closer to him. I couldn't believe he would do this to me after everything we had been through. Surprisingly, that was all I needed to let go. It dawned on me that my marriage had ended long ago, but I was still trying to put the broken pieces back together. I don't know exactly where it went wrong, but looking at the love of my life, the man I had loved for years before he even asked me out, I realized that he wasn't the same anymore. I was willing to evolve with him and explore. For me, that was one of the most exciting things about marriage, that you would have to keep learning and relearning about your partner. In that club, around his friends, some of which I thought were my friends too, I said, "I give up, Ali." And then I turned around to leave. To my surprise, he followed me, asking for an opportunity to explain. I ran even faster and got into my car and drove off. I lodged into a hotel after I left the club. I didn't want to go back to our home, and I didn't want to go to my family's house either. We are a big family, and everyone is all up in everyone's business. They are lovely people, but sometimes they could be too much, and I didn't need that at all. I took a very long shower, watched romance movies, and slept. I was an emotional person, but I couldn't cry. I just felt numb. Ali wouldn't stop calling my phone, so I switched it off. I woke up in the middle of the night, and that's when it hit me. I cried until I had no more strength. As I went through that, I was also making up my mind to let go. I didn't want him to hurt me any more than he already had. He had done enough damage to last a lifetime, and I didn't think I could take any more. I was scared to put on my phone, scared to see happy pictures of Ali and his new wife. Was he planning on bringing her into our home? Or did they have another apartment? I had so many questions, and it was killing me not knowing the answer. I finally put on my phone in the evening because I didn't want to get my parents worried. I had 50 missed calls from Ali, his best friend, and my family. This could only mean my family was now aware of what had happened. I called my sister, who was so relieved to hear my voice. She screamed to my parents that she finally got to me. My sister told me they were surprised to see Ali very early in the morning. They were worried because he hadn't visited in months, so seeing him without me said a lot. They could tell he was trying not to give too much information but wanted to know my whereabouts. My sisters said they told him to leave. Apparently, they knew that we had problems in our marriage, but let me be since I wasn't ready to open up to them. Ali didn't show up at his wedding. Right now, I'm sure he doesn't know what he wants because why is it when I decided to let everything go that he wouldn't let me be? He has been ringing my phone since that night at the club and goes to my parents' house every day to see if I'm there, and of course, they don't let him in. My mom begged me to come home to them, but I refused because I'd rather be at the hotel. If not, they would drive me crazy. I know they mean well, but I can't deal with them now. At least one family member calls every 30 to 45 minutes to ensure that I'm okay and rain curses on Ali. Imagine what they would do if I was home with them. I'm not going to lie. I really wanted to know what happened with the wedding. Serve the girl right who wanted to marry a married man. I called Ali's best friend and he told me that Ali had come back to his senses and realized the day he told me to come to the club that he still loved me. He confessed that one of his other friends had poisoned his mind and told him how he was enjoying his polygamous marriage, but that's not what he wanted. It was the most ridiculous thing I had heard all week. If some friend he met could lead him astray and make him treat me the way he had been treating me all this while, then I'm grateful that friend came into his life to show me who Ali really was. It's good riddance. All his excuses for treating me like trash just made me dislike him even more. I don't want to be with Ali anymore. I'm getting a divorce, ASAP. Now he has lost both his wife and wife-to-be. I guess that's the irony of life. NTA, Ali deserves what he got in the end. NTA, such shitty friends that man has. Even his best friend, who refused to go to the party, could have done way more than count himself out of the whole thing. I would never let my best friend ruin his life, even if he hates me for it. I, 17, male, live with my father, his wife, and my half-sister Molly. My parents were going through a divorce when Molly was born and my mom died. My father had been cheating, and Mom found out about it and kicked him out, just as it came to light that the other woman was pregnant. Then I lost my mom less than 4 months later. I was only 7 at the time, but not dumb. So I knew what my father had been up to. At least I knew he'd done something bad and didn't quite understand as much. The divorce hadn't been finalized or anything when my mom died, so they saw it as a positive that they could get married quicker. My father and his wife told me that we'd be a happy family and that things would be okay. I told them I knew they were bad and that I wanted to be somewhere else. That was the wrong thing to say because my father's wife decided she would stop at nothing to win me over and my father, and she attempted to convince me that what they had done was a good thing and hurt nobody. I was about 10 or 11 when I realized calling him my father instead of dad annoyed him. It took a bit longer to realize it sounded colder and less close, so I switched to using it exclusively. It became a sore point. He hated it. His wife hated being called by her first name and referred to as my father's wife. They also hated that I always called Molly my half-sister. Molly has been told repeatedly that we share both parents with each other. She has been told we are full siblings. She has asked so many times in the last 2 or 3 years why I call Mom by her name and why I don't talk to her like other kids talk about their moms. I told my father and his wife that they needed to tell her. They said she knows the truth and I am the person who doesn't. They said one day I will regret the walls I put up and they will always be there. When it never let up with Molly, I told them if they did not tell her, I would. So when she brought it up to me last week, I told her that her mom had never been my mother, that we shared a father, but my mom had died when I was 7, and her mom was just the woman my father married. She ended up turning her questions on them, at which point they went nuts at me and told me I had no right. Then they told Molly her mom had always wanted to be my mom too, but I rejected her, which sent her back to me with so many questions. And then she got upset because I told her I didn't want her mom to be my mother. She got put in the middle, and part of the reason it got so bad is because I told her the truth. I already know what her parents think. AITA, though? NTA. You don't have to lie for the sake of your father and stepmother. They knew how bad they looked and deliberately lied to their daughter. They're very much a matching pair of AHs. They caused, quite literally, this entire situation and compounded it by demanding that you lie to cover for them, meaning Molly wouldn't have a single person in her family she could trust if you did that. You're 100% in the right. And the adults you live with, wow. Just be there for Molly and keep in touch with her once you're gone and away. NTA, your half-sister deserves the truth, and it's on your father and his wife that she wasn't told in a more productive way. It sounds like you've been robbed of a chance to properly grieve and remember your mother, and I'm sorry for you. It seems like you have years of experience existing this way, so keep doing what you are doing. Adulthood and independence isn't that far off. Once you've established yourself as an adult, get therapy. Consider reconnecting with your mom's side of the family and decide on what terms you want to talk to your father. I'm 16, female. My parents are divorced. They got together in 2004, married in 2006, a couple of months before I was born, and split up in late 2012. The divorce was finalized in early 2013. My parents' split really affected me. I got homesick, upset, and anxious when I was away from one parent, and it was the same when I was with the other. I cried all the time, was very withdrawn and sensitive, and thought I was the reason they split. It got tense for a while when my parents got new partners, but I eventually got used to it. If it's relevant, my dad married my stepmom in 2016 and has 2 kids with her. My mom has been dating my stepdad since 2016. I never knew why they divorced. I was around 6 when everything happened, and they could only explain it to me in a child-friendly way. Sometimes mommies and daddies grow apart, they still love each other, and everything happens for a reason. And I did question them as to why it was happening, but never got the truth until a week ago. It came out that my dad had been unfaithful to my mom. Him and this girl, who apparently was around 18, 19, were together for 10 months before my mom found out via photos that the girl's mom posted on Facebook of them together. Expected drama ensued, and during the divorce process, my dad got engaged to the girl. He tried to introduce her to me. He told me that she was my new mommy. But I was cold towards her. I had to see her more after that and just never warmed up to her. They broke it off in 2014 for some reason, and that was that. I couldn't help but snap at him after finding out. I blew up at him. I yelled and told him that he had broken up our family for a girl he barely knew. He completely destroyed my mom and her trust. And he had the audacity to introduce us and tell me that she was my new mom, that he saw how much it affected me, that his 6-year-old wouldn't eat or talk because it had given me crippling anxiety, and I blamed myself, that he was too much of a coward to ever tell me about it. He argued back that it was none of my business, and my uncle, who let this whole thing slip, defended me and said he thought I knew, which is why he said it. And I had every right to be upset. I ended up storming out and staying the night at a friend's. I gave him the story and he said that he understood I was upset, but it wasn't my place to yell at him. I'm confused with everything I feel too. I was young when they split. I wouldn't have expected them to tell me at that age, but when I was older, part of me doesn't feel like it's my place to be upset. Another part of me thinks I have every right to be upset at both him and my mom, since she never told me anything either. All in all, AITA for yelling at my dad after finding out why my parents divorced? NTA at all. Let me start by saying I hurt my own family by being unfaithful. Those choices I made may eventually come out later to my son, and if he's mad at me, I'll have to own my mistakes once again to a new person capable of understanding. It sounds to me like your dad feels crappy and doesn't want to relive the shame again. Still, you have a right to your feelings. Dad needs to own his crap now and forevermore. We all need to. NTA, his decision affected you all. You've been blaming yourself for the past 10 years, internalizing things, developing anxiety, along with a host of other things that come with divorced parents, bouncing between households. Holidays are stressful because the family is divided, so you have to spend it half with this one and half with that one, and new partners coming in or out of their life. The truth was bound to come out eventually, and I'm sure he imagined one day you might find out and how to address it with you. He just wasn't prepared. Hopefully, you can both discuss this when things calm down and move forward when you're ready. NTA. Some people are just lousy people. Now you know what kind of person your dad is. One that refuses to accept accountability when he messes up. That said, don't be upset with your mom. She could have gotten into trouble with the courts if she told you, parental alienation. Make your mom and you a cup of hot cocoa and give her a hug. Also, talk to your mom about the crap your dad did. Demand you call his affair partner your new mommy. Your mom loves you. Your uncle and other relatives love you. Go with that.